If you're just tuning in to Civic Cypher, I am your host, Ramses Ja. Big shout out to my man Q Ward, who is still traveling the globe, but he will be back with us next week, I can assure you. But for now, we have a special guest in the studio, longtime friend of the show, and my teacher, Dr. Camilla Westenberg, who is Professor Emeritus of English and Music for over 40 years, as well as the second Vice President for Political Action of the Maricopa County branch of the NAACP. Today, we have spent some time talking about the Jacksonville mass shooting, but for the second half of the show, we are going to shift gears and be discussing DEI training, diversity, equity, and inclusion training. These are things that you often find in the workplace and other places where human beings are organized and have to interact with each other across racial lines. And so there's been attacks in recent months and years on whether or not it works, and we are going to provide a case for DEI training. Shouldn't need it, and it doesn't, I know, but that's what we're here to do. So first and foremost, we're going to discuss BA, Becoming a Better Ally, BABA. And today's BABA is sponsored by Unknown Union, the fashion house situated at the intersection of meaning, innovation, and culture. For more info, check unknownunion.com. And I want to share a bit from the Ark Times. That's short for Arkansas Times. Funny, right? But they are. Yeah. Oh, that is your state. Yeah, right. State. Yeah. Shout out to Arkansas one time. And hopefully we'll be on the air there soon. We're negotiating. So shout out to Arkansas. They're always in the news for like heavy things and being on the wrong side of stuff. But today we're sharing some good news. So the school districts calling the state education department's bluff by keeping African American studies on the books. Schools in Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Jonesboro say they'll continue to offer AP African American studies despite a last-minute maneuver by the Arkansas Department of Education to defund and discredit the class. The Little Rock School District, Central High, North Little Rock High School, Jacksonville High, and the academies at Jonesboro, along with the charter schools, North Little Rock Center for Excellence and East High School, have all confirmed they will offer the course and calculate grades on the same elevated 5-point GPA scale as other AP classes. A message sent to East parents revealed details about how the state conveyed the last-minute news to schools. In fact, East students had already been in school for more than a week before their high school director got word of the state's decision. Joke's on the state, though, since East will not only continue offering the class, but will award the school's first Medal of Historical Pursuit and Valor to students who complete it. The Jacksonville North Pulaski School District confirmed Thursday that they will also continue to offer the class. Education supporters and representatives for these Arkansas schools that committed to offering the class said they're exploring options for covering test costs for the AP African American Studies exam since the state will not do so, unlike with every other AP class. So again, shout out to the folks fighting back in Arkansas. Yeah, we like that. Yeah. All right. DEI training. Does it work? Okay. Well, the short answer, if I may, is yes, absolutely. I've seen attacks recently suggesting that DEI is preaching to the choir. The people that come to DEI courses they already feel that way. There have been people who have, did the cost analysis of the entire industry. DEI is a $3.6 billion industry, something like that. And so the folks that are involved in DEI training have no incentive to see racism go away. And because they're gainfully compensated to weed out violations, everything is always a violation to these people. And so they're not to be trusted, so forth and so on, right? And so these attacks on DEI erode a lot of what people were asking for, a lot of what activists were asking for. And the more vocal of us in 2020, and let's be honest, in the entirety of our history in this country, because a lot of what has been asked for has been conversations, understanding, sharing of information, insight into what day-to-day life and activities is. And when people start to put a dollar amount to things, then businesses start to pay attention. It's no longer about, does it feel good? Is it the right thing to do? It's more about, Are we spending money? Are we paying less to our shareholders and to our stakeholders and to ourselves for something that doesn't work? And so you can see how easily a narrative that runs counter to the intention of DEI could conceivably take root, where there is a fiscal incentive to corporations around the country. And so this conversation is certainly necessary. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, any thoughts, any early thoughts?
You know, the concept of DEI as a tool or a curriculum, in many ways, it is needed, but I find it very novel. Just for me personally, because I think I was traveling down that road as soon as I became an adult and began working.
Okay.
The necessity was obvious to me.
Sure.
You cannot be a be-all to everyone. And when you walk into an environment where your audience is eclectic, you cannot use the same pattern and structure for everyone. You're going to have to deviate a little bit. And you have to know the nuances.
Thank you.
Of how you need to deviate and even why you are deviating.
Sure.
So of course it's necessary.
Okay.
It's obvious to me.
Very obvious.
It's
okay.
obvious.
All right. So, for those of you who might have encountered some of these attacks on DEI, and I know there's been attacks on African American studies, that it's been rebranded as critical race theory. There's been attacks on wokeness, which is effectively pursuing a more equitable society. There's been attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is understanding how we relate to each other in the workplace. And everything it's very easy to trace the roots of all of these attacks to divisiveness. Let's be honest, hate, and a far right political agenda.
And insecurity.
Okay. Yeah. We have you up here to say the truth, and you do just that. All right. Now, I want to share some things that help make this point for us. DEI training has been increasing in prominence since 2012 with a major boost in 2020 and 2021. Let's talk about Juneteenth. Of course, MLK Day, historically, that has been a time of the year when folks try to do their little part. You know what I mean? Black History Month, of course, is the time of the year when, some companies will acknowledge.
Times.
Right, exactly. And, Kwanzaa and other, other little moments, right? But DEI is an additional step that often enough companies can make. Right? So, as I mentioned, DEI attacks from the right, suggesting that the $3.6 billion DEI industry needs racism to sustain itself, right? So it finds racism everywhere. And a particular individual who has a lot to say about this is a former DEI trainer and Black man. He's a current Black man. He's not a former Black man. Well, depends on who you ask. Yeah. But he's a former DEI trainer / Black man. That's what I'm saying. And his name is Eric Smith. And he said on Fox News, if you're making money off of racism, the last thing you want to see is for it to go away. Now, I mentioned this a bit on our social media this week on Civic Cypher's Instagram and TikTok and all that sort of stuff. So folks who've seen it and interacted, I appreciate that, even the people that disagree. But, allow me to elaborate. I can do a lot more of that in a full segment than I can in 30 seconds, right? So for those that saw that, you might recognize that I posted a counterpoint which suggested that the cost of racism had impacted the economy to the tune of $16 trillion. So while people are saying DEI training costs $3.6 billion, racism costs the economy $16 trillion because of discrimination. And this is from I believe it might have been Chase Bank, Citigroup. That was it. So I'll read. Since 2000, U.S. gross domestic product, and this is from NPR, by the way. U.S. gross domestic product lost that much as a result of discriminatory practices in a range of areas, including in education and access to business loans, according to a new study by Citigroup. It's not an insignificant number. By comparison, U.S. GDP totaled $19.5 trillion last year. So 16 trillion since 2020, right? So over the course of 20 years, the economy was 19.5 trillion, as of 2019, I believe. This article is from 2020. So here's some other points. Real quick, and not acting to reverse discriminatory practices will continue to exact a cost. Citigroup estimates that the economy would see a $5 trillion boost over the next 5 years if the U.S. were to tackle key areas of discrimination against African Americans. Now, this is Citigroup. This is not Ramses. This is not Civic Cypher. This is not Dr. Westenberg. Okay, Citigroup saying this. Okay. And I don't believe Citigroup plays the political game to the degree that a lot of our elected officials do. Okay. Citigroup is about money, literally, right? All right. So here's some points. $13 trillion lost in potential business revenue because of discriminatory lending to African-American entrepreneurs, with an estimated 6.1 million jobs not generated as a result. $2.7 trillion in income lost because of disparities in wages suffered by African-Americans. $218 billion lost over the past 2 decades because of discrimination providing housing credit. $90 billion to $113 billion in lifetime lost from discrimination in accessing higher education. And there's several more bullet points. But I want to also add that, to your point, Dr. Westenberg, so in school, and this is just me. I don't have this written down, but I'm glad you made the point because it allowed me to remember. I went to school for marketing. My bachelor's is in marketing and my master's is in management. Okay. So we learned marketing. That's what I had to learn in school, Arizona State University. Okay. And one of the things that we learned is that there are blind spots when dealing with people who don't come from where you come from, don't live the same life that you live with. One example that comes to mind is Colgate. For Colgate to sell their toothpaste in Spanish-speaking countries, they have to understand that Colgate translates to go hang yourself in Spanish when you read it. Colgate, right? In Spanish, that means go hang yourself. And people might not be so likely to purchase this off the bat, right? It needs a serious rebrand. But if you just want to open up that market and you don't know that, then you're going to run into some problems. Your sales projections are going to be off, right? And this is exactly what happened. This is why the story made its way to my class, because of corporate blind spots. Another one is that in countries where there's low literacy rates, some people purchase items based on the pictures on the label, not necessarily based on the language.
Sure.
And it's not just low literacy rates. It's, in this country, we brand everything in English. In other parts of the world, they don't read English, speak English. It's just not a part of their life, right? But we want to still sell the same products with the same labels and so forth, right? But it doesn't matter. If they can't read English, even the name of your company, they're looking for the pictures. Corporate blind spot. Right. People are looking for the pictures, regardless of literacy rates, regardless of any of this stuff. If they don't speak English, they look at pictures. Okay. All right. So if you're with me, watch this. Gerber.
This is Maggie B. Noen, and we'll be right back with more Civic Cypher after a quick break.
I'm Donald Trump.
And I'm Joe Biden.
And there's only one thing that could bring me and Sleepy Joe together.
Come on, man. Don't corn pop me.
That's in support of the Independent Riot podcast, where they interview independent thinkers on controversial ideas like the dangers of voice cloning technology.
But is it available on any gramophone machine, Donald?
Yes, Joe, it is. And it's bigly important. Many people are saying, that's the Independent Riot podcast. Not right, not left, just real. Subscribe now.
Or I'll sock you in your mouth, Jack.
Babies.
It's a picture of the baby.
The baby.
So what people were horrified to find out is that people are selling ground up babies in these little tiny jars, right? And so no one wanted to buy Gerber in these other countries, right? Now that's two that come to mind that I learned in school, right? And those weren't specific to the differences in African American life versus,
Gotcha.
white American life. But you begin to see the fact that corporate blind spots exist,
Sure.
right? Now, if corporate blind spots exist, then you miss your sales projections. In addition, you can offend different communities. I remember a campaign not too long ago from Toyota. Toyota had a commercial and they were trying to appeal to African Americans, and they had African Americans using the products and enjoying themselves, going on trips, etc. And then at the end of the commercial, there was a person smiling, and they had a gold teeth or a grill or something like that, and it had the Toyota logo in it. And then Black people, rightfully so, we were like, yo, what does Toyota think of us?
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, do they think this?
And just, frivolous with,
right. And then there's an example here that I actually wrote down. This is from August 29, 2023. So this is a recent example. Okay. This story comes from Black Enterprise. KFC is in hot grease after Black Twitter called out its racially offensive ad campaign. Billboards across Canada. This was a Canadian country, but, a lot of similarities between our two societies, right? Billboards across Canada displayed Black people enjoying its famous fried chicken under the slogan of "It's finger licking good." No problem yet. Finger licking good has always been their slogan, but, our sensitivities have changed. How we're viewed has changed, but, no problem just yet. Okay. And this drew criticism for tone deaf imagery. Okay. Criticism, though, is not the biggest part of the story. Let's keep reading. Azim Akhtar, director of marketing for KFC Canada's, presented his latest campaign to Twitter on August 24th, expressing how he couldn't be more proud at how well it seemingly turned out. Quote, "Sorry, utensils, it's finger licking good," unquote. He wrote, reiterating the motto featured in the ads. However, his tweet gained traction in a negative light. Naysayers suggested that the team missed a mark, displaying Black people in an advertisement that perpetuated historical stereotypes against them. In other words, the actors in the ad campaign, right, and the people in the photographs and in the commercials were Black. And now, to be fair, I want to tell the whole story. He did have other families using the same marketing
strategy.
Right. But on Twitter, he only used the Black families. Right. And he was very proud of it. But because of this oversight, what ended up happening was he ended up offending Black people. It was like, okay, Black people are licking their fingers, like grateful to have a piece of chicken.
Right.
And there's a whole history there. That Black people didn't always get to eat chicken. We had to eat innards of pigs and cows and stuff like that for a long time. But for a person like this that doesn't know that, he might think, well, if I don't interject the Asian family and the white family using the same marketing assets for the ad campaign, then it looks like we're just kind of saying, here, Black people, we know this is what you want and what you like. And it's offensive, right? But again, corporate blind spots leads to losses in revenue. We talked about $16 trillion over the course of 20 years. Corporate blind spots. Now, let's add to that lawsuits. So we talked about marketing blunders. We talked about corporate oversights, but lawsuits. People get sued when they step out of line. People get sued for touching my hair. Right? For those that are, this is radio, so you can't see me, but I've said it on the show time and again. I have a huge afro, and it is very touchable to people that, oh my God, look at this, And I don't mean to generalize here, but you're a woman and women have a tendency to wear their hair longer, and Black women's hair is very special. It does all the tricks. I know that because I have.
Think about the Crown Act. Yeah.
Right. And for people that, and I'm not trying to put anyone down, and you may not know this, but I'm going to say this because it's based in reality. For people who have been entitled, blindly entitled to being able to do whatever they want, move how they want, and feel like they will be well received, have not had to move with caution, rather have moved with reckless abandon throughout the entirety of their lives. Touching someone's hair feels like I'm acknowledged. I'm doing so, you know what I mean? But at a point it becomes harassment. At a point, sensitivities need to be in place. We have a different reality. We have a different appreciation for
DEI.
Thank you. Right.
For Black folks. You just don't, hair is
it's very special to us. Yeah.
Special.
It's different. Not saying that other people's hair is not special to them, but
it's special.
Ours is special to us in a special way, right?
And partially because society has made it that way. It probably would not be special if
we didn't have to protect it so much. Right.
Precisely.
Now, let's talk about office humor, jokes that are shared, that these things that are offensive to Black and brown and other marginalized peoples. You might think you're connecting. I remember once I went up to Prescott, Arizona. It's the sticks for those that don't live here. And I was hanging out with a family that was up there, and they started telling racist jokes. And I found out later they were trying to relate. They were trying to be funny, make me feel welcome. That's all they knew. Yeah. But it was obviously very offensive.
Yeah.
And I had to sit there and smile and laugh. I was a teenager at the time. But the fact of the matter is that well-intentioned, well-meaning people in corporate environments can find themselves on the worse end of a lawsuit or of, tone deaf marketing strategy or corporate oversights or whatever. And so I know I talked about us the whole time. I'm so sorry, but
no, you were vibing. You were going into it, and that is your area of expertise too. Sure. So I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
But the long and the short of it here is that diversity, equity, and inclusion does have its benefits. If people don't know, then they will continue to violate, and we don't get the best of each other. In fact, I believe that we tend to retreat away from each other without that type of education.
Very true.
With that in mind, that's going to do it for us here on Civic Cypher. So as always, I'd like to thank you for coming up and hanging out with me once again.
You make me proud.
I've done my best to do that. You have taken the time with me, the young age, and I hope that your investment in me pays dividends.
Wonderful things.
Sure. Dr. Westenberg, again, Professor Emeritus of English and Music for over 40 years, as well as the second Vice President for Political Action of the Maricopa County branch of the NAACP, my teacher, my mentor, my traveling companion through life, particularly insofar as topics like these are concerned, and a joy as always. For those of you that want to know more, please hit the website civiccypher.com. Follow us on all social media at Civic Cypher. You can follow me at Ramses Ja. Q is I am Q Ward. And until next week, y'all, peace.